right, and we are live. What is going on, my specialists? SPC here. Happy New Year to each and every single one of you. I hope you guys had an awesome holiday season and had a very good New Year as well. So, guys, we are here 2024, the very first stream, video, whatever you want to call this, of the new year. Very, very excited to be doing this again. Obviously, I've been gone for a while. I will talk more about that here in a couple of days. I'm going to be doing a big update. So, looks like we got the channel formerly known as President CN. Good to see you back, brother. Thank you so much. We got Mick loving it. Happy New Year's, everyone. So, guys, today I wanted to do something I've never done before here on the channel, so I'm actually excited to be doing this. But it's been a pretty popular thing, going on over the last handful of years as people doing their own tier rankings. So I decided to go to tiermaker.com, and I just simply typed in Star Wars, and I got a large handful of different ones. But we're going to have some fun today, and I'm going to actually be doing a ranking of 50 characters from Star Wars. Obviously, if we did all the characters from Star Wars, not only would we be here forever, but we would also need to take a couple of breaks. But anyway, with that being said, you guys, here are going to be the characters that we are going to be ranking here. So obviously we got a wide range of characters. We have bounty hunters, we have droids, we have Sith, we have Jedi, we have like bounty hunters, smugglers. I mean, we have all sorts. Obviously we have a lot of people to go through, and these are the categories that I decided to go with. They were kind of the only ones that could come to my mind, but we have, of course, the S tier, greatest of all times. We have legendary, Padawan, memorable enough, forgettable, and for the worst of the worst, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, again, guys, these are just going to be my opinions. So I guess, why don't we just get on into the first character, which, of course, as you guys see, is none other than Ahsoka Tano. For me, for Ahsoka, obviously, I've just come around to the character here over the last couple of years, watching the season 7 of Clone Wars, Rebels, obviously, too, just watching the Ahsoka show. I've come around to this character a lot. It took me a while. I really didn't like Ahsoka for the first couple of seasons of Clone Wars. And obviously, of course, she gets really good towards season 4, season 5. But I will be totally honest. For me, Ahsoka is going to go into legendary. I will say this. I like her as a character. I would probably at least put her top 20 favorite Star Wars characters, but she hasn't quite made it as like one of my absolute favorites in the series. I think she's good for what we have. It's just I need to see more of the character. And obviously, since we just got news now that you're getting an Ahsoka season 2, who knows? Maybe that will help me catapult her up a little bit farther. We have 80s kid from the 90s. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, man. Hope you are doing well. And Padawan Pops is here as well. Hello there. How you doing there, Will? All right. So, obviously, we have Ahsoka done, which means we have 49 to go. Up next is, and I don't know why I cannot remember her name. Laura Dern's character from The Last Jedi. Feel like I remember her name, but it's not coming to me right now. I'm not going to lie. It's going to bother me. I need to look. 1 second, everybody. Sorry about this. I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was going to be. I feel like as soon as I see it, though, I'm going to remember immediately. Holdo, Vice Admiral Holdo. Thank you. Thank you, Will. I'm going to put her in, honestly, I'll be honest, memorable enough. And it's not because of how she actually is in The Last Jedi. Obviously, after Leia gets blasted off into space, obviously has seen that 90% of the fan base cringed at, which I'm up there as one of them, I will willingly say. But there's really only one thing she's memorable for, and that is when she sacrifices herself to jump into hyperspace and crash through Snoke's starship. Like, to me, that is the only reason she is memorable in any way, shape, or form. Otherwise, it's a character we've never seen before. We don't even know a backstory for her. She says she was good friends with Leia. Obviously, you only see her for a little bit in The Last Jedi. So, unfortunately, again, Holdo, you're only memorable just for sacrificing your life. So, thank you. And now we've got the chosen one himself. We have Anakin Skywalker. I mean, let's be real, guys. He's got to go up in the GOATs. I mean, how can you not like Anakin Skywalker? I can understand, maybe the first couple of films, obviously with Jake Lloyd's portrayal in Phantom Menace. And obviously, it's really hard to like Anakin in Attack of the Clones just because of the dialogue that he has and everything else that goes on in that film. But for me, I have to put Anakin here. Number one, he's probably one of the greatest lightsaber duelists in all of Star Wars. Obviously, of course, we ultimately know where his fate goes at the end of Revenge of the Sith when he becomes Darth Vader. And honestly, too, another reason he goes up there is for what he just recently did here in Ahsoka. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but all I got to say is it was an amazing episode with Anakin and Ahsoka going in together. It's just, if you haven't seen it, just go watch it. That's all I got to say. But again, it's hard not to put Anakin up here in the greatest of all time because just everything that happens throughout all of Star Wars, again, even his redemption in Return of the Jedi, becoming Anakin again by killing the Emperor, saving Luke. And I mean, what more can you say? I mean, Anakin Skywalker, probably the greatest Jedi of all time for some people. So up next is Asajj Ventress. Of course, she is a Clone Wars exclusive currently as of right now character. Obviously, if you guys did watch the 2003 version of Clone Wars by Genndy Tartakovsky, that was when she actually first debuted, and her lightsaber duel with Anakin in there was just awesome. I'm going to be honest here. She's going to be the first one under Padawan. There are elements of her character that I like. I do like that she does try to go and kill Dooku. Obviously, we get to see why she becomes a part of the dark side because her master was killed. But for me, she's kind of almost like a more human version of Grievous. Like, she gets beat a lot. And I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of her voice. My favorite part of like her character and watching her is the episode where she's actually on Dathomir against General Grievous. Like, to me, that just felt the most realistic version of this character because obviously she's with all the Night Sisters trying to defend the planet, trying to take out Grievous and his droid army. So otherwise, I don't know. I'm a little mixed on her. I think she's an okay character, but again, I need to see more. I'd like to see how her journey ultimately ends. And I do know there's a book called Dark Disciple where she's in there with, I believe it is Quinlan Vos, if I remember right. Obviously, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but Asajj is okay. Next up, we've got probably one of the most shocking reveals in The Mandalorian, obviously from the very first episode. We have got little baby Grogu, also known, of course, as Baby Yoda. And I'm going to put him in legendary. I really want to put him in greatest of all time. I'm going to be totally honest. I love this little guy. Like, seeing him, like, for the first time in The Mandalorian obviously was a shock. Seeing how he progresses throughout the show is awesome. He has the cutest moments in the entire Star Wars franchise. I mean, obviously, got my own little Grogu here, and I know you guys can't see, but of course I got my handmade little Grogu that is always with me on the Takalorian Live. But for me, he's another one. Like, I want to see kind of more of his journey, because obviously in season 3 of The Mandalorian, we see how he is finally rescued. We get to see who he is with and who he escapes with during Order 66. I want to see in between there. I would love to see a show with Grogu and Kelleran Beck. To me, I just think that would be crazy cool. Even if you got like a little comic book or something, or a little animated series. But obviously, I'd love to see it in live action. But I'll be honest, Grogu, he's just one of my top 10 favorite Star Wars characters. Again, I really wanted to put him in GOATs, but unfortunately, after I see a little bit more of him in the next season or in the movie that we're supposedly getting now. Next up is BB-8. I'll be honest, this is probably my new favorite droid. But I'm going to put him in legendary, and I know this is going to be controversial, but I am putting him above Ahsoka. I love BB-8. I'm a sucker for droids. I love almost all the droids in Star Wars. As soon as I saw him on the screen, when I actually got to go and see The Force Awakens, absolutely madly fell in love with this droid. Want one immediately. To me, he's just a little bit more entertaining than R2. Like, don't get me wrong, I love R2-D2 to death, absolutely to death. But I just think that the entertainment value for BB-8, he has some better moments personally for me. So that is where I am with my BB-8 placement. All right. One of my biggest unpopular opinions in my time being here on YouTube and, talking about Star Wars a lot is my thoughts on this character, on Boba Fett. I'm going to put him in Padawan. I do personally still think that this is one of, if honestly not the most overrated character in all of Star Wars. He doesn't really do a lot in the original trilogy. You finally get to see him come back in The Mandalorian season 2. He eventually gets his own show. Obviously, we all know he was supposed to have his own movie. And you get to see him as a kid during the Attack of the Clones film. But again, he's just a guy who doesn't do anything. Mando season 2, his return, I fell in love with this character. Like, Mandalorian season 2 Boba Fett is the best version of Boba Fett. It's my favorite version of Boba Fett. And then when you get to his own TV show, I always keep wording it as he's like the fun uncle character. So, like, he's not as ruthless. He's not as, I don't even know what the word I want to use is, but he's not the Boba Fett from the previous season of Mandalorian. And it's also pretty sad, too, that, he gets outshined by Mando in his own TV show. I expected and wanted so much more from The Mandalorian season 2's version of Boba Fett. I wanted that character back. But man, they fumbled it so hard with Boba. But I'm hoping, if fingers crossed, either he's going to be back for a season 2 and they're going to go back to that more traditional version of Boba Fett, or maybe he'll join them in this big Heir to the Empire film. And again, maybe they will just bring back Boba Fett from season 2. I'm just hoping, keeping everything. It looks like we had a couple of comments here. Padawan Pops, not remembering her name is a fair thing. Dude, like I said, I was totally spacing out about her. I knew who played her, I just forgot her name. And then Goat, I'm assuming that you meant Anakin, because I think that's when that popped up. And Ventress, she's in Dooku Jedi Lost as well. It is odd they've made Boba a good guy and kind of mellow. Yeah, man, that goes against his character. Like, Fennec Shand to me felt so much more like how Boba Fett should have been in the show compared to how Boba Fett was in his own show. It's just pretty sad. Boba Fett is a GOAT in Star Wars legend, but I'd say legendary or Padawan in canon. Like I said, I've had this unpopular opinion about Boba for a long time. Maybe someday he's come around more. I'll be honest, if you would have probably asked me prior to him returning in Mandalorian season 2, he probably would have been like right here. But I think Padawan, I think it's fair personally. Now we got C-3PO. I know this is a character that people get so annoyed with, but he is one of the originals. He's been in pretty much every single movie, and he even just made a guest appearance here recently on the Ahsoka show, which is awesome. So I have to put him in legendary. I do know that in The Rise of Skywalker is probably like the most he gets to do. But I'd probably say my favorite C-3PO like related film, I guess we'll say, would be him in Return of the Jedi. I think he's okay in all the other films. It's cool to get to see him get built by Anakin and Phantom Menace, see him progress throughout the stories. But for me, it's hard not to put 3PO in legendary. Again, it's just, he's been around since the beginning. He's been in pretty much almost every form of media we've had, whether it be a cartoon or live action. And again, live action shows. And I mean, Anthony Daniels is just awesome. I thoroughly enjoy him. The legendary bounty hunter himself, Mr. Cad Bane. It's hard for me to put him where I want to put him because I do like this character. But again, similar to Boba Fett, it's kind of the same thing with him as Boba because of how it's represented in the Book of Boba Fett show. So for that, I have to put him in Padawan, but I will put him above Asajj Ventress. I do think Cad Bane is an awesome character. I love his look. Like, his look is awesome. The fact too that he can take on Jedi and stand toe-to-toe and even be better than them. Of course, there's also another character in here we'll be discussing here soon as well. But if they would have shown more of him, if he would have been handled so much better in the Book of Boba Fett. I mean, heck, he's even in the Bad Batch for an episode. He faces off against Fennec Shand. Like, that was one of the best episodes of season 1. Obviously, of course, you know, he is just plain awesome in the Clone Wars TV show, but like I said, I want to put him in legendary because I do think he is an awesome character, but that Book of Boba Fett, man, that hurt me. Like, I thought he looked awesome in live action. Like, I really did. I know for some people they said he looked kind of rough, like the CGI looked pretty bad on him. But so for now, Cad Bane is going to stick here in Padawan. President CM, I'm giving 3PO his flowers. He's a goat. Star Wars wouldn't be the same without. That is for sure, man. I mean, again, it'd be like having Star Wars without Luke Skywalker. Like, how can you not put him there? I understand why you put him there, but I can't put him in greatest of all time because he does kind of grind my gears every once in a while. And then Will, Return of the Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker are his best moments. He's one of few high spots in 9. I will always keep saying it, man. I know I'm a rare breed of people who like the sequels, but I absolutely love The Rise of Skywalker. So if you guys didn't know that, you can take that how you need to. I understand. Trust me, I understand why people hate the sequels. I truly do. Especially Rise of Skywalker. I'll never, ever argue the fact that it is a mess of a movie, but to me, it was awesome. I absolutely loved that film. Totally get it. Even though I love him, 3PO can be a little bitch at times. Yeah, he gets to be a little much. All right, we are back now to another animated character. We have got, who actually even just made his live action debut here in Ahsoka as well. We've got Captain Rex. Rex is going to go into Legendary. Out of the clones, I would probably say he is the best, probably my favorite out of all of them. I'm almost honestly kind of thinking differently now. The only reason I can't, he's not in my top 10 favorite Star Wars characters. I know that's kind of a little bit of a pathetic excuse to not put him up higher, but I mean, Rex, he's just such an awesome character. He's got this great relationship with Ahsoka, a great relationship with Anakin. We've seen him in every single cartoon that has been out now. He's, of course, a huge character in Clone Wars. We see him helping out the Bad Batch as well in the Bad Batch, obviously. And, of course, Rebels, too, towards the last couple of seasons. He does have a bigger role there as well. I mean, this is just one of the most loyal clones, too, especially after what happens with Order 66. I mean, I will be honest. If we had a live action version of him with Tamora Morrison, I would probably put him above Grogu at least. But again, man, Grogu's just, he's so good. I love Grogu. He's so cute. I actually just read the book and it's really good. If the movie had all the extra stuff, I would have loved it. That's what I keep hearing. I keep hearing the book is better than the film. And understandable. You know, obviously you could put a lot more. From what I heard, it actually explains what the legendary phrase from the film that somehow Palpatine returned. All right. Cassian Andor. For the record, before I put this anywhere, I'm a huge fan of Rogue One. Love that film to death. I hate the character of Cassian Andor in that film. I had absolutely no hype, no excitement, no anything for the Andor show. But I am going to put him in memorable enough. This is just not a character I like. Like, I can't put him in forgettable, and I don't hate him to the extent of having to put him in Help Me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. To me, I understand why he does the things he does. I understand why he has to make some of the difficult decisions throughout Rogue One for the sake of the rebellion. But I can't, man. Like, this character I don't like him. It's not Diego Luna. I don't think he's a bad actor. I think with what he's given, he's good in the role. it's just, man, he's just a character I can't stand. I don't know how really to tell you guys or how to say it, but I don't like Cassian Andor. I've tried. I tried in Rogue One. First time I was around, I thought he was okay. More and more I watched it, I hated it even more. And I was just so uninterested in Andor. I tried to give it a chance. I tried to maybe think, okay, maybe this will show me why he acts the way he does in Rogue One. And I just still don't like him. I can't. I've tried. Maybe Andor season 2 will help me. I don't know. I have no faith in the show. Like, I was so bored watching Andor. It didn't feel like Star Wars to me. We're going to end it at that, because if not, we're going to end up spending like an hour of me just sitting here ranting about Cassian Andor. We got the Wookiee Chewbacca, and he might not be one of my favorite Star Wars characters, but Chewie's got to go up in the goats to me personally. Much like 3PO, he's been there since the beginning. Obviously, we didn't see him in 2 of the films. We didn't see him in Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones. We do see him a little bit in Return of the Jedi. Wow. Well, obviously, he's in Return of the Jedi. Revenge of the Sith. He's also appeared in, I believe it was Clone Wars. I believe he was in an episode on there. And I don't remember him being in Rebels at all. So, but I mean, it's Chewie. He's the most faithful Wookiee ever. He's one of the best sidekicks ever. And I know probably some of these placements aren't up here for some people, but I mean, Chewie's awesome. That's all I could say. And I'm happy he finally got his medal in Revenge. Jesus, Rise of Skywalker. There's too many R's in these films. Chirrut Îmwe. If you guys don't remember, this is Donnie Yen's character from Rogue One. This is the character I ended up coming out loving the absolute most out of any character in Rogue One. He was the one I was the most excited for, because he kind of seemed more like he was going to be like a Jedi character. Obviously, we find out he's one of the protectors of the Wills. He protects the temple on Jeddah from the Empire, protects what's left of the crystals. Obviously, we all know how that goes. Donnie Yen's character is going to go in Legendary, but he is going to go underneath BB-8. Again, this guy was awesome. I mean, he's hilarious. He's got, for a blind guy, like just all the choreography he does. I mean, obviously it's Donnie Yen. He's one of the greatest martial artists of all time, one of the best Asian actors I've ever seen. I just love this character. I wish I could see so much more. I would love to see. For me, it's like shows. Like, I think shows would be better for some of these characters I'm interested in. I would love to see a show with him and Baze. I just think that'd be awesome. Kind of show how they become the Guardians of the Wills and lead them to Jeddah. I think that'd be an incredible show. Up next is Count Dooku. This is a character that I've always kind of been a little mixed on. Like, when I first saw Attack of the Clones as a kid, obviously, right away, I saw, a guy with a lightsaber. I was hooked. I was super impressed with seeing this guy. But you don't get a lot of him. You don't get a lot of him either in Revenge of the Sith. Obviously, we kind of all know that. But with what they do with him in Clone Wars, and more importantly, and especially what they do with him in Tales of the Jedi with his 3 episodes, they were the best episodes of Tales. So Count Dooku is going to go into Legendary as well. Obviously, the Legendaries are filling up here pretty quick. If I wouldn't have seen what they were going to do with him in Tales of the Jedi, like if Tales never happened, I would probably honestly put Dooku down in Padawan. But getting to see how he actually reacts to Qui-Gon's death, seeing their relationship together, I mean, it's great. Finding out why Yaddle is not an Attack of the Clones when you find out that he turns on Yaddle. She actually finds out that he's with the Emperor. And I mean, just that heartbreaking look of after Anakin takes his hands and he's about ready to kill him, and he looks over at Palpatine after he says, do it, like kill him. Like you just see that like heartbreak. I would love to see a version of Revenge of the Sith where Dooku survives. Maybe he just gets his hands taken off and he just gets taken as a prisoner. I think that could have been something good. Obviously, of course, played by the late, great Christopher Lee. This was just like I said, if it wasn't for Tales of the Jedi, I would have him easily in Padawan, but that definitely helps. Even kind of mentions the world between worlds. I might have to see, man. I've been trying so hard to like be better with reading. Like I started Heir to the Empire. I think I got like 2 chapters in, and I've had the book for like a year, and that's as far as I have gotten in the book. So I like Andor, all the characters in the franchise. Why give him a show? Exactly. Why Andor? Why give it to him? Like again, they should have gave it to Chirrut. I just think that would have been a 10 times better show. I would have watched that. All right. Well, now we are here at Darth Maul. Darth Maul goes up to Goat, but he's going to go right above Chewbacca. This may be tied with the single best villain in Star Wars. Honestly, like when I first saw Darth Maul, I was probably like everybody else here in the stream. You see this guy with red and black paint on his face, a double-bladed lightsaber taking on 2 Jedi at one time. Awesome. The most legendary part of The Phantom Menace. The reason why we all want to watch The Phantom Menace. And then they bring him back in Clone Wars. They give him an arc that is so amazing. You go through his story in Clone Wars. You see him again in Rebels. You even see him for a quick moment in Solo, a Star Wars story. Honestly, I think the thing that would put him above Anakin, personally, to me, I need to see the rest of his story. I need to see what happens between Clone Wars and Solo. And then, of course, even too, we still need to see between Solo and Rebels. Like, I want to see him run Crimson Dawn. I want to see how he becomes the leader of Crimson Dawn. Because, man, when I saw him pop up at the end of Solo, at first I thought it was the Emperor. Like, literally, to me, it sounded like the Emperor at first. I was like, oh, okay, so these guys are working with the Empire. Okay. And then when they pull off that hood and you see Darth Maul's face and he activates the lightsaber and you see the mechanical legs, it's how can you not get excited? But yeah, Darth Maul, honestly, like I said, tied with probably the greatest villain in all of Star Wars. Probably one of the best written characters in Star Wars. I wish we could see him in live action again, though. Like, I know all the controversy surrounding Ray Park and everything that happened with him. So I understand why we don't see it. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Either we're going to get a movie or a show or something else with Darth Maul. And speaking of who I personally think is the best villain in Star Wars, which I don't think many people are going to argue with, Darth Vader. Easily GOAT. Top of the list right now. Darth Vader, to me, is one of, if honestly not the single best movie villain, even possibly movie character ever created. And that does tie in, of course, obviously, with his counterpart, Anakin. Obviously, you see the entire story. You see Anakin grow up as a slave. You see him slowly become a Jedi. You see his entire story throughout the course of Clone Wars. We, of course, obviously see what happens with him in Revenge of the Sith. And then we still get to see him be Darth Vader, see him do everything he does. But one of the other reasons why I also put Anakin and Vader both in GOATs, I mean, Vader was going there regardless, no matter what, is the way that he was represented in Obi-Wan Kenobi. I will say it, I love the show. To me, Hayden Christensen, hands down, is the best Darth Vader we have gotten live action version. Everything he does in that show, that heartbreaking moment with him and Obi-Wan at the end after their lightsaber duel, was just fantastic. I loved it. And I mean, it's Darth Vader. I mean, I would be surprised if anybody would put him lower than greatest of all times. If you do, I want to know why. Oh boy. Director Orson Krennic, the villain of Rogue One. This was the second character I came out loving the most in Rogue One. I wanted more. I wish we could see more of this character. Who knows? Maybe he'll pop up in Andor Season 2. But as much as I would love to put him higher, I have to put him in memorable enough. It's more just because we don't get enough of him. We don't know enough about his actual relationship with Galen Erso. We don't get to actually see him throughout Clone Wars because I'm assuming he used to be a part of the Republic. You don't get to see him slowly make his way up to director. And you also don't even really get to see kind of like what the problem is between him and Grand Moff Tarkin. You get to see him for like a split second in Season 2 of The Bad Batch. Unfortunately, like I said, we don't get enough of him. I think he personally is more memorable than Andor. That's just me, of course, but. And then up next, we have what a lot of people would say is probably the true villain of Star Wars, Emperor Sheev Palpatine. He also goes up to greatest of all time, right above Chewbacca, underneath Darth Maul. Palpatine knows how to play his cards right. To me, I look at him almost like he's a chess player. Like he knows how to move them pieces the right way so things work out for him in his favor. He was able to turn the Chosen One over to the dark side, obviously to turn him into Darth Vader, wipe out the Jedi, so there's nobody to stand against him. And to me, the best version of Palpatine, it's tied, because I love the manipulation that he does in Return of the Jedi, what he tries to do with Luke. Obviously, very familiar things Vader hears him say to Luke as well. But obviously, you see the most of him, and you see him really rise to power in Revenge of the Sith. So, one thing that honestly kind of made me want to put him into Legendary, I'll be honest with you, is because of the way he is in Rise of Skywalker. The way they do that. Like, he's just all of a sudden back. To a degree, for me personally, it makes sense. Again, he is like the villain. And I mean, if he knows how to live after death, which again, Will, if you're still in here, obviously, from what I've heard too, like I said earlier, I'm pretty sure they talk about how Palpatine is alive and all that stuff. Obviously, we know that he's a clone, which I think is stupid, personally. But I have to sleep. I don't know. Now I'm kind of second guessing myself, if I'm being honest. You know what? I changed my mind. Palpatine, he's going to go into Legendary instead. And he's going to go behind Grogu. Again, right now, nobody's topping Grogu. Sorry, not sorry. But he is going to be above Count Dooku. But if they would have done it so much better in The Rise of Skywalker, he easily would still be in greatest of all time. Maybe after, if keyword if I read the Rise of Skywalker novel, maybe he'll go up. But we will see. All right, now we've got our first character from Rebels. Finally, this is the very first one, and looks like we only have a couple in here. I guess unless you want to count Ahsoka in here, but we've got Ezra Bridger. This one is hard, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be totally honest. I hated him in the first 2 seasons of Rebels. I could not stand him at all. Halfway through season 3, like the first half of the season, I didn't like him either, but he started getting better in the second half of season 3, and season 4 was awesome with him. And I just loved him so much in Ahsoka. So much. But it's that first 2.5 seasons that just really bothered me about him. I know he's like young and naive then, and of course he grows up into being a very powerful Jedi. Ezra is going to go under Padawan, and he's going to go right above Cad Bane. To me, like I said, I did not like him at all. It took me forever to get used to him. But again, when I finally did in the middle of season 3, he I guess Ezra didn't like where I put him. I don't know what that was about, guys, so I apologize. So there's going to be like 2 minutes of there being nothing happening. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. I don't know what happened, but anyway, yeah, Ezra. Didn't like him in the first 2.5 seasons. Loved him in Ahsoka. He was pretty good in season 4 of Rebels. So yeah, Ezra, you're going to say in a Padawan. I'm sorry. If it happens again, I'll put you in goat. I'm sorry. Yeah, you better move him up. That's exactly what I was thinking. That was my first thought. I was like, oh man, I guess I pissed him off real good. All right. We got Finn next. FN2187. It sucks, man, because I loved him in Force Awakens. I thought that was the best representation of Finn. But they just absolutely botch him in The Last Jedi. Did not like him in that at all. And he was decent in Rise of Skywalker. So I have to put him in the Padawan spot, and unfortunately, I got to put him below Boba. Was one of my favorite characters in Force Awakens. Again, it's just the way they handled the character. I wish they would have done more with him. Especially too when they teased us in the trailer for Force Awakens and they showed us that like they made a tease like, oh yeah, he's gonna be the new Jedi. Of course, obviously we find out Rey is a Jedi, but that doesn't bother me. I still like Finn. I think overall he's still a good character. He's just easily one of the most underutilized characters in all of Star Wars. So next up is General Grievous. I knew when I got to him, this one was going to be hard because his look is awesome. Like, and the way that he is in the Clone Wars 2003 show, he is a menace. He is almost like a horror villain at that point. And I do like him a decent amount in Revenge of the Sith, but I hate what they do with him in Clone Wars, how he is basically just a coward. He runs off every time he starts to lose. To me, that's not good for a villain, personally. So he is going to go into Padawan right below Finn. If they would have kept him the way he was in the 2003 Clone Wars, man, this would be an amazing villain. He honestly probably be up there with Darth Maul, personally, to me. General Hux from the sequel trilogy. You get the distinct honor, my sir, of being the first Unforgettable. Again, another character I actually thought was pretty decent. I thought his acting was good in Force Awakens. He is a complete joke in Last Jedi, and they don't do anything with him except he's magically the spy and he gets killed in Rise of Skywalker. So there's not much I can say about this guy. Again, Force Awakens is his best, but that's not saying much. They still don't really utilize this character the best he can. So, Hux, like I said, you get the distinct honor of being the first forgettable character on this tier list. Grand Admiral Thrawn, the villain of the last 2 seasons of Rebels, the villain we waited to see in live action on Ahsoka, and the guy who is going to be the main villain in the Heir to the Empire film. Thrawn is going to go under Legendary, and he is going to go right above Count Dooku. This guy is absolutely a master technician. He knows, just like Palpatine, he knows how to play his cards. He knows when to leave when he needs to. He knows when to attack and how to manipulate his opponents and everything. The only reason he is not higher on Legendary or even in the GOATs is because they don't do a lot with him in Ahsoka. I think he's awesome to see in live action, played by Lars Mikkelsen. He was awesome in Ahsoka. But all he just up and leaves. Like, you get some good dialogue. We get to find out, that he's working with the Night Sisters, and we get to see them zombie troopers. Oh, it's so good. So good. But I need to see how he is going to be, because, again, they had already announced Ahsoka Season 2. And obviously, I need to see how he's going to be in Heir to the Empire. I would also assume if the Heir to the Empire film is successful, maybe they're going to make the actual Thrawn trilogy. So maybe this will be a villain we are going to have for quite a long time, going to be the new big bad of Star Wars. So for now, Thrawn, you get to be in Legendary. And again, this just, you hear that theme too. You hear his theme in Rebels, and you get like these cold chills. And you hear that voice. He's so suave the way he talks too. And he's just so like direct, like he knows how to say stuff to people. So Grand Moff Tarkin, we see him in Rogue One for a little while. Obviously not him, since of course, Peter Cushing unfortunately passed away long before we got Rogue One. And obviously his most memorable role is in A New Hope. But unfortunately, I have to put him on Padawan, and he's only going to go right above General Grievous. Another guy who knows what to say, how to say it. He has a pretty decent-sized role in the Bad Batch show. I personally think, to me, that's my favorite version of this character. But he's just another character they don't do a lot. He's just there for exposition. Like, you don't see him ever actually fight. You don't ever actually get to see him do really anything, honestly. But maybe we'll get some more of him in Bad Batch. Maybe he'll have a much bigger role. Maybe we'll actually get to see him in action. So, Grand Moff Tarkin, you're going to stay in the Padawan tier. Han Solo, one of the legendary characters of the show. Obviously, one of the big fan favorites, played by the legendary Harrison Ford. He even got his own movie. I think that's pretty impressive. Han Solo is going to go into Legendary as well. And he is going to go right above Captain Rex. Unfortunately, he has to be underneath Count Dooku. This is another character that I just think, first of all, I'm one of few people who actually really liked the Solo film. I actually thought it was a lot of fun. Still going to say it to this day. I still think that Solo should have been the first Disney Plus show, and it would have been 10 times more successful. Because unfortunately, I think people were just sour after The Last Jedi when it came out 5 months prior. So that film didn't get a lot of buzz, didn't get a lot of hype. But I mean, again, it's Han Solo. Like, he played by Harrison Ford. He is amazing in the original trilogy. Again, my personal favorite version of Han Solo, if you guys haven't watched my 10 unpopular Star Wars opinions, my favorite version of Han is from The Force Awakens. So that's why he's got to go in Legendary. I mean, again, he one of the OGs as well. I mean, he's above C-3PO. I hope that at least makes some of you guys happy. Hera Syndulla, now known as General Syndulla from Ahsoka. This is another character I have a hard time trying to decide where she should go, because I think she's good enough in Rebels, and we just don't get enough of her in the Ahsoka show. So people might not like this one, but I'm going to put her in Padawan, but she's going to go above Tarkin. Another character, again, I just wish we had more. Like, she's the mother type in Rebels, so she's literally like, she's obviously the leader, like, even with alongside Kanan. Like, her story with Kanan, too, great. But there's just so many times that she makes the dumb decisions. She tries to go and do things on her own. And again, man, she was so disappointing in Ahsoka. Like, I thought she was going to have such a bigger role. I thought she was going to be a much better character in the show. So, again, another thing, I'm hoping season 2 of Ahsoka is going to help with this character. We're going to see how her story continues. But my favorite thing about her is just her relationship with Kanan in Rebels. I think that's the best part of her character. You actually get to see her be vulnerable with somebody she actually cares for. But she stands up to the Empire. She's literally a true rebellion leader. So definitely makes her more memorable than these two, personally. Oh, Hondo. Hondo, you get the luxury to go in memorable enough. This guy is a sleaze, man. Like, this guy, he's a smuggler. He'll do every and anything he possibly can to try and make ends meet with making money. He's comedic at times, but he is such an annoying character at times too. Like, he's not as annoying as like a Jar Jar, but he's also not as like memorable as like anybody else above him. Honestly, I would almost put him below Holdo because I at least remember more of what Holdo did. But again, entertainment value wise, I got to put Hondo here right below Krennic. We got Jabba the Hutt. There were supposedly rumors we were going to get a Jabba the Hutt film. That's just a little fun fact I wanted to just throw out there. No, I'm good. Hopefully that never comes to fruition, but Jabba's going to go into memorable enough. Like, the best part we get to see with Jabba, just like with 3PO, is in Return of the Jedi. I think he's decent. But again, definitely not somebody who deserves their own show or their own anything, really. Again, just memorable enough to be there. And that's all I got to say, man. It's Jabba the Hutt. Like, I have nothing super positive to say about Jabba. He's not a super memorable character, but he's memorable enough. Hence why he's in. And good old Jango Fett. Unfortunately, he's also going to go in memorable enough, but right below Jabba. This, of course, is the main guy who got his genetics for the clones. Obviously, of course, played by Tamora Morrison. But you get to only see Jango in one film. While he has a lot of great moments, he's one of the better parts of Attack of the Clones, like his little battle he has on Kamino alongside Obi-Wan fighting against him. But then you get to the Geonosis arena, and he just gets decimated by Mace Windu, and that's always bothered me. I'll be honest. Something that's always bothered me. Look-wise, he's awesome. But again, he's just memorable enough. We all just know him as the genetic trait for the clones. Jyn Erso, the lead actress, Felicity Jones. Unfortunately, she also has to go in a memorable enough, but she is going to go underneath Hondo and right above Cassian. When I first watched Rogue One, I absolutely thought this character was great. Weirdly enough, I like her more in the Battlefront 2015 game than I do in the film. She's so just bland, boring, just almost basically a stock character, she feels like at times. I just feel like she's just has no charisma. Like she just has like one straight look. She has like no charisma at times. Her best acting sequence, in my personal opinion, is when she's actually there with Galen. He's sitting there dying. To me, that's the part that I remember the most, and her little bit of a fight she has at the end with Krennic. But other than that, easily one of my more least favorite characters in this new trilogy of films. I guess the new Disney stuff of Star Wars, obviously, but next up is K2SO, the droid from Rogue One. I'm going to put him in Padawan. Again, another droid I'm a sucker for. He is absolutely so comedic. He's one of the best parts of Rogue One. But once again, another thing, you don't get enough of him. Like, I'm hoping he's going to be in season 2 of Andor. I'll be a little more excited to watch the show if he's ends up being a big part in it. Since, of course, he's an Imperial security droid, which you do get to see one of them in Andor actually arrest him. Don't know if that ends up actually going to be him. There's a lot of like theories, possible rumors that the little red droid from Andor, something must happen to him, and maybe they like implant his memories and stuff inside of one of these droids. I'm not really sure. It's just a theory right now, but if it is, cool. But as of now, yeah, K2SO, just good enough of a character. Oh, Kanan Jarrus, one of the most saddest deaths in Star Wars, man. Like, watching him give up his life to save everybody in that episode of Rebels, it was so heartbreaking to watch. Kanan's going to go into Legendary. He's going to go above Han Solo. This was my favorite character in Rebels. I played by Freddie Prinze Jr. As some of you probably know, Fred Jones from the Scooby-Doo film from like 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. He is the epitome of what a Jedi should be. And even the fact too, he goes completely against the code, much like how Anakin was, much like how other Jedi have done as well. His death, man, it's heartbreaking to watch. Seeing what happens to him too in the final episode of season 2 of Rebels with him going blind, just heartbreaking. But seeing him progress, still being able to use the Force, still being able to know where he is, where people are. This guy is just a legend, man. I can't put him quite up here though, because there were a few times I wasn't the biggest fan of him, so. Oh boy. Kylo Ren. This is going to be probably my biggest hot take on this list. But please just hear me out. Please just hear me out. Kylo Ren, I'm putting in greatest of all times. He goes back and forth between him and Darth Vader as my second favorite character in all of Star Wars. As of right now, it's Darth Vader. I love Kylo Ren. To me, he is, without a doubt, the best part of the sequel trilogy. Hands down. Like, no, bar none. To me, he's the only thing that stays consistent in each of the films. Like, the first film, he is a little whiny. He is a little more kind of like Episode 2 Anakin a little bit. But man, when that lightsaber comes out and he is actually like Kylo Ren, to me, man, just one of the best characters. Like, I love how dark he gets. Like, to me, man, his the best performance of Adam Driver is The Last Jedi. Like, to me, that is a Kylo Ren film. This is one I definitely want to see a show of, like a Ben Solo Kylo Ren show, like seeing how he actually turns to the dark side, how he actually goes to be with Snoke. I love this character so much. Like, maybe not the best like lightsaber duelist, maybe not even like overall best character in all Star Wars for people, but I love Kylo Ren, man. Like his look. He's just a little bit of a downgraded version of Vader, but to me, man, one of my favorite characters in Star Wars, and I'm sorry, you can't change my mind there. Lando Calrissian. This is one I know I'm gonna probably get some slack for, but he's gonna go at the top of Padawan. At the top of Padawan. There we go. This has never been a character I've been like overly the biggest fan of. You know, Billy D. Williams, he's awesome in the role as Lando in the Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Obviously, that is hands down Lando's best moments. I do think that the representation of him in Solo by Donald Glover is very well done. I think it definitely suits this character the best. But man, they don't do anything with him in Rise of Skywalker. Like they tease his return, and all you see is him just come back, talks a little bit about an adventure he had with Luke, and then you don't see him towards the end of the film when he's flying the Falcon in with the like thousands of starships that are there. So I think he's a good charismatic character. Just like I said, just definitely not one of my favorites. Good old Luke Skywalker. Where else can you put him in the GOAT? I know this is unpopular that I'm putting him underneath Kylo Ren. I know. I understand. I get it. Luke Skywalker, probably hands down next to Darth Vader, is the best character in all Star Wars. Like that, I don't even think that is up for debate. I don't think that anybody's ever going to argue that. He's played by easily one of my favorite actors of all time, Mark Hamill. Like, and I also just love the fact too that he came back for that scene in The Mandalorian season 2 at the end. Like he's the one standing there. Obviously, he's not the one going through and destroying all the droids and everything, but and I will even say too, I know it's so unpopular, but I love the way he is in Last Jedi. I really do. I think it makes so much sense as to why he wants the Jedi to end, because obviously the biggest thing about The Last Jedi is failure. And he easily steals the show at the end when he does that huge force projection and faces off against Kylo. It's just a phenomenal scene. I love it. So cinematic, so beautiful to watch. And I mean, just like with Vader and Anakin, like seeing him progress through the 3 films, you know, seeing him be the farm boy, then going to the Jedi Knight / Padawan, and obviously, you know, you get to see him be a Jedi in Return of the Jedi. Easily the best Luke Skywalker of all of them is in Return of the Jedi. And you even get a little bit of him too in the Book of Boba Fett, one of the more memorable things from the Book of Boba Fett. Again, man, Luke Skywalker, just greatest of all time. Hero-wise, easily the best Jedi for a lot of people. Mace Windu. He's played by easily who I bounce back and forth between him and Jim Carrey, who as my favorite actor of all time. And Kelly, I know if you're watching, I know that this is your favorite character in Star Wars. Like even though I know you're not a big Star Wars fan, I know this is your guy, but I'm sorry to say, man, I have to put him in Padawan. I really, really do have to put him in Padawan. Except, there we go. We'll do that. He's going to go with the top of Padawan. This is another character I think is very overrated. Again, he's played by Sam Jackson. He's got a purple lightsaber. He has one of the better duels in Revenge of the Sith. I totally get it. But I don't like the way he is in Clone Wars. To me, that's just not how I grew up watching Mace Windu. I think he's at least good enough of a character. But even to the fact, too, that he didn't trust Anakin, and like literally with his arrogance and the way that the Jedi are, he could have stopped Order 66. So, unfortunately for that, Mace Windu has to go down in Padawan for me personally. Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. Got to be honest with you guys, and I got to be honest with myself. He goes in greatest of all time, and he is going to go right underneath Luke Skywalker. The Mandalorian literally, like, I don't want to say it like this, but it's the only way I'm going to be able to say it, so I guess we'll just go for it. The Mandalorian really, like, changed my life. Like, it came out at such a great time. It came out right before Rise of Skywalker. And I fell in love with this character in that first episode. I'm still going to say it, hands down, that first episode of The Mandalorian is still the best episode of the show. I know a lot of people would say it's that final episode in season 2. Respectfully, I would have to decline. I know with like Luke and all that, I know that's why people put it as their favorite episode of Mandalorian, but this character, man, this is how Boba Fett should be. And I love Din Djarin. I love how you see him go from this ruthless bounty hunter to this just loving father figure. It's going to be a terrible comparison, so please don't hate me. But I compare Mando and Grogu's journey almost like Piccolo and Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. Like, they have that relationship. Like, Grogu's there when he needs him. He's there when he needs, like, somebody obviously more powerful, because obviously Din is just a bounty hunter. He's just got the Beskar armor. He has the spear for a little while, his blasters, the birds. I can't remember what they're, whistling birds. And obviously for a little while, too, he also has the dark saber. But it's just another character, man. Just his character growth throughout the 3 seasons of The Mandalorian. I love it. Like, it's one of the best original stories made that doesn't need to be tied in with anything that's actually happened in the Skywalker saga. Obviously now he is going to be tied in. Obviously, again, we all know that there's a Mandalorian movie coming out. I will be talking about that here in a couple of days, so I'm not going to really talk much about it right here, but I just love Din Djarin. He, like I said, just his character arc and his growth from bounty hunter to loving father, it's one of the best things that Disney has done since they've acquired Star Wars. Oh, Maz Kanata, I'm sorry. But you also have to go into Forgettable. This is a character you only see for a couple of moments in The Force Awakens, and you get to see her in a hologram in Last Jedi. We don't know what her relationship is with Han. We don't know much about anything really about her, period. Like, I couldn't even tell you much about this character except just her look, and she has a little interaction with Rey. Otherwise, I could not tell you anything else about her. So easily more forgettable personally to me than Hux. Like I said, I remember a lot more of Hux in The Force Awakens than I do Maz. Obi-Wan Kenobi, hands down, greatest of all time. I gotta put him above Anakin. Again, I know Anakin's got a great story, and even to Darth Maul, but Ewan McGregor, I said it. I don't know if I said it earlier. Maybe I'm thinking of something different, but Ewan McGregor, easily one of my favorite actors of all time. This is the best version of Obi-Wan Kenobi, period. No disrespect to the late, great Alec Guinness or James Arnold Taylor's version of Obi-Wan. This, to me, is Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor's version. Seeing what he goes through after his, I was about to say his father, after his master Qui-Gon's death, seeing the journey that he goes through from having to basically raise Anakin, make him become the great Jedi that he is, having to go into seclusion after, from what he thought, he killed Anakin. And I will even say it too, man. I loved him in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Yeah, some things were a little about him in there, but like him trying to hide Leia and his coat, like I get it. That was stupid, personally, but it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like I just think the character is phenomenal. Like you see him go from the Padawan to the Master so fast, just because of how much Qui-Gon believed in him. He did everything he could to train Anakin, but the only one downfall about him is he still has that mindset, much like Mace Windu and the Council have, is like the Jedi are here to protect everybody, but he can't break that attachment that he has with Duchess Satine, which obviously you see very heavily in Clone Wars. He is, man. He's a phenomenal character. I love him to just absolute death. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi, easily greatest of all time for me. Padme Amidala, wife of Anakin Skywalker, mother of Luke and Leia. She's going to go under legendary, but she's going to go at the way end. I do think that she is a strong female character. I will just say that, and that's as far as I will go with that whole statement, because I know that can get blown out of proportion at times. But I do think with what they do with her in the prequels, I think it is not quite on par with what they do with Carrie Fisher in the original trilogy, but even though she is like memorable enough, I do think she's one of the better parts of the prequels. I don't think the acting is really all that bad. I think she does better than Hayden Christensen does in Attack of the Clones, even though that whole relationship between them two is just it's cringe. I'm sorry. Like that whole stuff with her and him on Naboo, it's the most cringeworthy stuff in Star Wars. But I think she is a very decent, like, lead. Poe Dameron. This is a character that has to go under Padawan, and he is going to go right below Hera. Much like I said about Hux, and I said about Finn, the best stuff with Poe is in The Force Awakens. That is the best portrayal of the character. I'm not the biggest fan of him at all in Last Jedi, and much like with Finn too, I think he is decent in The Rise of Skywalker. But the only thing that keeps him kind of up here compared to being down and memorable enough is he does have some good action sequences. He does have a bit of a background with Luke Skywalker, or along the lines of his mother has more of a background with Luke, but he does have some pretty good standout moments. His stuff he does at the beginning of Last Jedi when he's in the starship, I think is good until he makes that stupid decision to turn off his comms and not call off the attack, which pretty much destroys the entire brigade that's going up against the First Order. So Unfortunately, Poe, that's where you get to go. I'm a poet. Didn't even know what. Oh, shut up. Sorry. Anyway. Oh, Carrie Fisher, late great Carrie Fisher. Princess Leia Organa. I have to be honest when I say this. She is not somebody who's in like my top 10 favorite Star Wars characters. I will say that. I do think that Leia is easily the best female character in Star Wars history. I know some people would say either her or Ahsoka. She is going to go up in Legendary, and I will put her above Han. More because I think she has the better standout moments in the original trilogy. I think Han has quite a few. Obviously, Luke has the most, but I just think that the way they represent Leia in the sequels kind of hurts her a little bit. Like, they don't really show us anything between, what happened with her and Han between Return of the Jedi, Force Awakens. There's still that whole opening there. I know a lot of people didn't like the way that she was killed off in Rise of Skywalker, but it was emotional enough for me. I don't think we get enough of her in Force Awakens, but she is easily one of the standouts. She is easily the strongest female character in Star Wars. Like I said, I would put her up against like Sarah Connor from Terminator 2 or Ellen Ripley from Aliens. Like, I would put her up in that category personally as one of the best strong female characters in all Star Wars history. We have Qui-Gon Jinn. This is a character I have come to love. I really wish that if the Jedi would have been more of his way, the Jedi probably would have never fell to Palpatine. I think they would have ended Palpatine. And even to the importance of this character for Count Dooku. He's going to go in Legendary. He's going to go right below Grogu. I know that's unpopular, but again, I love Grogu so much. I just love him. Qui-Gon Jinn, obviously you only see him in the one film. You only see him in Phantom Menace. He is one of the best parts of the Phantom Menace. This is a Jedi I wish we could have seen so much more of. I love what the little bit they do with him in Tales of the Jedi. Again, one of the other big reasons, like I said, I'm putting him here is because of his importance to this man, to Count Dooku, his master. He just plays such a huge role, and like, even if you tried to think about it, the things that would have probably have happened in the entire Star Wars saga if he would have been alive. And I'll be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, and I'm sorry to have to do this, but Chewie, I have to take you out of Greatest of All Times. No, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just sat here thinking about it. But I will put you right beside Han. It didn't feel fair having Chewbacca up there and not having these guys up there. It didn't feel right. I'm sorry. R2-D2. As much as I love BB-8, he's still the greatest droid in Star Wars. Like, this droid has such a huge importance to the story of Star Wars. He has amazing standout moments. This droid is not afraid to get his little wheels dirty and do what he needs to do. That's all I can say, man. He's just one of the most important Star Wars characters up there. Oh, boy. Oh, Rey. Rey. Or Rey Skywalker. I probably just got like 5 dislikes there. I'm sorry. We're going to see how this triggers some people, but Rey is going to go here on Padawan, but she is going to go up on the top there. I like this character. Is she totally like overpowered? Does she progress way too fast in the Force? Yes. I don't even think that's up for debate. That is something that's always bothered me about Rey. I like her a lot in Force Awakens. Again, for all these sequel characters, man, they are all phenomenal in The Force Awakens. Except Kylo Ren. He's just phenomenal in all the films. But I will say that, yes, Rey does progress in the Force way too fast. Way too fast. And I know a lot of people don't like it, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And it is very respectful that she takes the name Skywalker, because she's not actually saying she's a Skywalker, but she is continuing the Skywalker legacy by going and now training the new generation of Jedi. Of course, obviously, we all know that we are getting this Rey film. It is the first film that we are getting out of all these new films that were announced here a while back. But I think she's a fine character. I don't think that I know everybody uses the term Mary Sue, but it does bother me, yes, that she does progress too fast in the Force. I'd like to see her progress much like Luke does in the saga. But that's just my opinion. Like I said, I have no hate for Rey at all. I really don't. Rose Tico. I'm sorry, Rose, but I have to put you, unfortunately, in the forgettable part, but I will put you above Maz, because unfortunately, and it's no hate to Kelly Marie Tran, I gotta say that, even to all the other people I've been on here, like Daisy Ridley got a lot of, backlash for Rey. Same thing too with like John Boyega, obviously Kelly Marie Tran. Rose Tico, I'm not a fan. I haven't heard anybody be like, oh yeah, Rose, she's an amazing character. I love her. They just like throw her in. She's just magically the love interest, personally, for Finn, even though he has like no interest in her. He wants to be with Rey, but she has just one of the most cringiest lines and scenes in Last Jedi, while people are literally getting like killed. Like she's there like kissing Finn, being like, oh, we don't fight for what we believe in, we fight for who we love. And then she kisses him and passes out. It's like, and then with all the backlash for her, like they do nothing with her in Rise of Skywalker. She's literally just there helping out in the battle. So Rose Tico, yeah, you're forgettable. Again, you have to go underneath Hux, because I remember more of Hux. Sabine Wren. This was my second favorite character in Rebels. I'm going to put her in Legendary, but unfortunately she's going to have to go way back here. She's going to go underneath her master, Ahsoka, but obviously has to go above 3PO. Like I said, like this was my second favorite character in Rebels. I thought she was awesome. This Mandalorian, formerly from the Empire, going and now joining the Rebels and fighting against the Empire. It was awesome. Having her obtain the dark saber was great. But what keeps her from being up even higher is the way that she is in the Ahsoka show. I was pretty mixed, especially that last episode. Like, when I saw what they did with her, I rolled my eyes and I audibly went, get out of here. Because there were rumors they were going to do it, but I didn't think they actually were going to go for it. But they did it. They did it all right. Savage Opress, the brother to Darth Maul. He's going to go in memorable enough, and unfortunately, he has to go way back here above Holdo, but underneath Andor. This is a kind of another character that's just kind of here. He's just a random Zabrak that the Night Sisters just induce with a bunch of power, train underneath Count Dooku, and goes alongside and fights with his brother. And then he turns, goes to try to kill Dooku, and goes to try to kill the Emperor, and Palpatine just wastes him. So he is memorable enough for things like that, but unfortunately, he just doesn't serve much of a purpose. Supreme Leader Snoke. You're going to go in memorable enough, and you're going to go right above Hondo. I put him here mostly because of the acting by Andy Serkis. I think that this character he's interesting. Because once again, as I've said umpteen times before with every other person from the sequel trilogy, I think that he is best in The Force Awakens. He is mysterious. We don't know how powerful he is. And then when we finally get to physically see him in Last Jedi and we get to kind of see how powerful he is, you're really invested. But then he just gets killed by Kylo, and that's it. And then just with what they do with him in Rise of Skywalker, just showing that he's a clone. Like that soured any sort of interest I had in Snoke. If they would have truly kept Snoke as the villain, like maybe his essence went into Kylo and he was struggling trying to stay light but also kind of still be dark, be that middle ground kind of thing. There's so much more they could have done with Snoke, and I really wish that they would have just stuck with it and not killed him off and then just pull Palpatine out of their back pocket and be like, surprise, Palpatine's back. We're here at the final character here on this tier list, you guys. Yeah. You guys who know me, you know where he's going. If you don't, he goes to the top of the greatest of all time. This, hands down, is my favorite Star Wars character, and even just overall my favorite movie character of all time. And many reasons why. Obviously, he is the wisest Jedi out of them all. Obviously, too, though, he does, unfortunately, fall, much like everybody else, because, unfortunately, he still just lives in that way of the Jedi, unlike how Qui-Gon was. But this is a guy where I will willingly say, he has literally helped me in my life. His words of wisdom, even lately, over the last 6 years, I've really used the one is failure, the greatest teacher of all it is. That's just been one I have absolutely lived by. But I do. This, to me, is the best character in all of Star Wars, for me personally. It once in a great while, it's not very often, but once in a great while, it goes between him and Vader. But I've always loved Yoda. Yoda is just, again, my favorite character of all time. Obviously, I got him here. I've got him, here. He's probably one of the most pops that I have over here. Obviously, you guys can't see it. Obviously, I love his species because I love Grogu so much. But yeah, that is. Oh, we gotta. Okay, now do Jar Jar. Jar Jar would go in memorable enough. I'll be totally honest. He would go in memorable enough, and he'd probably be in here. He's an entertaining enough character, just not the best. He can be pretty annoying sometimes, but he's just memorable enough. But yeah, you guys, that is my tier list for these 50 Star Wars characters. We'll just put a big picture here so you guys can take another good, quick look at it. The greatest of all times, Yoda, Vader, Kylo, Luke, Din Djarin, Obi-Wan, Anakin, Darth Maul, and R2-D2. Legendary is Grogu, Qui-Gon, Palpatine, Thrawn, Dooku, Kanan Jarrus, Leia, Han, Chewie, Rex, BB-8, Chirrut, Ahsoka, Sabine, 3PO, Padme. The Padawans, of course, are Rey, Mace Windu, Lando, K2SO, Ezra. Ezra, I'm sorry. I know you stopped my stream earlier, so I apologize to you. Cad Bane, Asajj, Boba, Finn, Hera, Poe, Tarkin, Grievous, the memorable enoughs, Jabba, Jango, Krennic, Snoke, Hondo, Jin, Andor, Savage, and Holdo. And the forgettables are none other than Hux, Rose, and of course, Maz Kanata. So yeah, guys, that's going to do it for my very first tier list. If you guys do want to see more of these, please let me know. I had a blast doing this. I would absolutely love to do this. At some point, I think I want to do it at the end of the year. I don't want to make any promises because I hate making promises and then I never go through with it. It always bothers me, but I would love to do like all the live action movies, live action shows, and cartoons, like rank everything together in one massive tier list ranking. That'd be so much fun. But let me know down in the comment section below, what other kind of tier lists would you like to see? Do you want to see me do the movies, the shows? Do you want me to do more characters? Lightsaber duels, starship battles? Just let me know down below in the comment section. And make sure you guys stay tuned. Sunday, I'm going to go live. I'm going to be doing a 2024 update. We're going to be going over all the 2023 films that I watched. We are going to talk about what I'm planning for this year and my goals for the channel. And we're also going to be talking about my 10 most anticipated films for 2024. So, and hopefully if it works out Monday, we're going to get a Talkalorian live going. We're going to be talking about the news that just dropped here yesterday or the day before about the Mandalorian and Ahsoka shows. So just make sure you guys stay tuned. So with that being said, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one.